Hello, everybody, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I am Dana Lawson, CTO of Netlify. We're the home of web developers to build and deploy their dreams. And today we are going to have an awesome conversation with the amazing Lee Davies and Ash Hitchcock joining me from Fresh Egg. Um,
Hey
before we
everyone.
get before we get going, I got a few little housekeeping rules for you. All participation should be in listen mode. Please mute. I'll do my best to keep my chickens outside quiet because believe me, people, they're on the other side of this window. And then the sessions are being recorded. You're welcome to ask questions throughout. We'll have some polls, we'll have some interactivity. But I want to remind y'all, folks, this is a global international community on this webinar, joining from all around the world. I see you, Sweden. Please respect our community and the code of conduct right here. And so, let's get into this a little bit. As I said, I'm joined by Lee Davies, head of AI engineering, and Ash Hitchcock at Fresh Egg. Guys, how about we tell the audience who the heck is Fresh Egg and what y'all do?
Cool. Hi, I'm Ash. I head up the front end development at Fresh Egg. So I head up a team of in-house developers building fast, accessible and high-performing websites. I've been a full stack developer for about 20 years, more recently in the, headless world with Gatsby, then onto Astro. And it's all about combining technical know-how with creativity, really, to deliver great results for our clients. Lee?
Awesome.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Lee Davies from Fresh Egg. First of all, what Fresh Egg are? Well, we're a web build and optimization agency. I've been here about 2 years now. They hired me in as their first AI-specific AI engineer to help grow the team, which is what we've been doing. And hopefully we'll get some time today, as well as talking about the great work I've been involved with Ash, measuring our sort of CO2 impacts of our site. Hopefully we'll get to talk about some of the new AI advances as well. The reason why AI engineering director is involved in this talk about measuring the CO2 is in a former life, I spent a number of years as the head of digital for the Green Party of England and Wales, which is the environmental political party over here. So it's very much a subject close to my heart.
It is a subject close to all of our hearts because, hello, we live on this amazing planet that we call Earth. And guess what? Without it, we wouldn't be here. And again, a shout out to all the peeps joining in Spain, Portugal, Southern France. What a wacky few days y'all have had. And that's why this conversation is more important than ever to protect our environment and be good activists is what we build and what we bring. And so today we're going to talk about a project y'all did for Agria. It is the world's first pet insurer. That's right, folks. I don't know if you know that, yes, you can get pet insurance. Just like humans, your baby fur animals need help as well. And this project was one that was close to y'all's heart because you had the opportunity to apply some sustainability as you approach this design. And Ash, I heard you're a Gatsby fan. I love the OG framework myself. You got to choose the right one to do the right thing. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about Agria, Ash or Lee, and tell us more how y'all got this contract and how your approach to it. And then we'll go into some outcomes because I think, just like you said, CO2 reduction is something that we can always think about. And especially in the world of AI, we'll talk more about that footprint towards the end of this broadcast. So guys, tell us about Agria.
Cool. So Agria, they were, as you said, the world's first pet insurer. They're providing pet healthcare since 1890. Can you believe it? So they're one of the biggest pet insurers in the UK. They partner with a lot of household names. So if you haven't heard of them directly, they partner with the likes of Lloyds Bank, the Kennel Club, Pets for Home, to offer an insurance product and underwrite it. So we first met them. They had a really large monolith website, as probably a lot of places have. It was built on a really old, outdated and slow version of Umbraco, had a really poor user experience, lacking real key features like simple things like my account. And so they come to us with big ambitions, and they wanted to maximize what they could do with the technology. They like with Umbraco as a platform. And they wanted something that was going to be scalable, that would grow with their ambitious business targets, really. And so the tech obviously needed to align with that. It needed to be built more with users in mind. So we basically led our approach being user-centered and and about building a fast, secure website really that was not going to be SEO friendly, and more importantly, obviously, was going to lead to more conversions.
Oh, always, time to market. I mean, if you can combine a good, fast, responsive website with an ethical and ecological focus, you're going to help make the world better. And so, Lee, I'm curious, how did the intersection of sustainability come with the design of this? Was this something that Fresh Egg initiated, or Agria was like, this is really important to us and a part of our mission and vision? I'm curious how y'all approached that, knowing that
Yeah,
that was a goal of this.
yeah. Well, actually, luckily, it was a bit of both. So we did some repositioning work a little while ago on our values as a company. Um, Obviously, it's been a core proposition of ours for ages, but I think we hadn't shouted about it or made as much noise or put it into the sales process. So we did a little bit of work around repositioning ourselves and making that be known. We were already working with Agria at this point, so it obviously naturally came up in different conversations from various teams with it. And then they leapt on it. They were super keen as well. They had internal metrics, they had internal goals they were doing to show what they're doing as an organisation to be more sustainable. But they hadn't thought about the website in that. In fact, the very idea of you could try and measure the CO2 impact of a web build, or more importantly, and this is what I'm saying, it's not so much the build, it's afterwards. It's how much less energy is used if you can build a slimmer, faster site that transfers less data and ensure where we're hosting it as well is in climate friendly data centers. So yeah, it came about a little bit organically. We didn't put it as part of the sales pitch to them because I think we'd won this business already to redesign the website, but we were also going through realigning and emphasizing some of our values to the wider world, cropped up in conversations, and they were just as keen as us. So the idea of using them it was perfect as well because we hadn't gone too far on this project, like the design wise. I mean, like brilliant, because what you need if you're going to do a true, experiment, we need how things were before and how things are afterwards. Very hard to measure it after the fact, the CO2 performance of the existing site, because once it's not there, you're going to be getting old data.
Yeah.
If the new site does its job and gets loads more users and loads more conversions, it might actually be less load and less CO2, but more people. So that masks the saving. So it's very important for us to benchmark the existing site before we developed and delivered the new site as well. So it was a good luck and timing. A client that was really, really super keen and happy to put budget behind the time that it takes to do this measurement, hopefully to get a case study out of it, and they're using it for PR value now as well. So actually it's an all-round win.
I can't agree more. And so knowing those objectives, it's amazing that you got to intersect and really bring a shared vision to this. And, obviously applying it to those business goals. I mean, Umbraco as a CMS platform, we had to make it scalable. We knew there was growth targets. And most importantly, we want to help that SEO get up there, promote the site, and convert to sales. And so, Ash, what was y'all approach to converting this site and really breathing some new life and thinking about how you can really help that time to market and do this sustainably? Y'all had a few things up your sleeve, so tell us more about how y'all were making those decisions as you worked through this and some of the design choices behind it.
Of course, yeah. So obviously, it really started early on with our UX and design and conversion team. They obviously got together to map out the key journeys and started mapping out all the different websites and web apps that we were going to build. And it kind of started scaling up that they needed lots of web journeys that were dedicated to different tasks, whether that's getting an insurance quote, whether that's making a claim, or they do a lot of work with partnerships. So there's specific web journeys for that. And it was kind of we need all these journeys. And what we didn't want to do is just build one big monolith of a site. So we kind of, I guess that led us down that road of looking at technology and going, right, well, we could build a straight up traditional website that was, server rendered, or we could start looking at what else there was. So at the time, like we were like heavy into Gatsby. We're all super excited about the technology. But as a byproduct of that, I guess, is it kind of like it gets you thinking about that sustainability aspect. And so, yeah, that kind of fed the decision really. And then, that led to us basically ending up building over these 30 web journeys for them, for all their different brands and all the different journeys that they need. And then so that's how we got to that technology decision, really, was just through that natural evolution and like looking at what technology would best suit the task. Gatsby has some really good features, like it's got its ability to like do inheritance. So we got like a one base website, and then each of the different brands then inherit that site, and then we can then easily apply the different brands, or even specific views might be slightly different between the brands, so we can kind of just make those overrides when we need to with theme shadowing. So it was a really good choice for us at the time.
I'm curious, I love that you were really thinking about how you can scale and have, a good experience for the people operating the websites and building the new ones as you move forward, because all of us don't like the chores. Come on now. I don't know about you, but I ain't got time for that. I'm a certified vibe coder these days. But how did y'all choose Umbraco as your CMS? Was that something that was already existing, or did y'all also re-platform your content management store?
So they were on a legacy version of Umbraco, version 7, some setting. So although they had a little bit of a negative experience, I guess, with it, they would find it hard to edit their content. As with all these platforms, it's how you implement them, right? So we're Umbraco Platinum partners anyway. So it kind of aligned that it was a good choice because we knew that we could deliver a great site on there. Umbraco themselves on Umbraco Cloud is all sustainable hosting as well. So the CMS we knew would be sustainably hosted. So that was a bonus. And so we then knew that we could get the right flexibility out of that CMS because it's more of a development platform. We could just leverage it to how we needed to throughout those journeys. It was multi-site compatible. We knew it would scale on their cloud hosting, and we knew it'd have a really good editor experience. And we knew that we could get the data out of it easily because it provided an API.
That's awesome. Go ahead,
Sorry,
Lee.
just one last thing on the Umbraco thing. And actually, since that, we're Umbraco Platinum partners now, one of the very few ones in the UK. So we have a lot more direct access to the engineering teams there as well. And I think for Agria, although they had a negative experience of an older legacy version of it, I think element of support and being able to have that close relationship is what sort of convinced them that they could stay with the platform but with a much more upgraded version.
100% agree. I mean, you don't want to choose a piece of technology that you're not going to have a good support experience, especially with the pressure on you as you build and really think about the results of scalability and sustainability. You have to know you have a trusted partner that's going to develop alongside of you. That's great to hear. So knowing that, I'm sure that you get a lot of feature requests in, but no, seriously, helping innovate together with these frameworks and these CMSs is always awesome. Well, I dropped a poll and y'all answered. What's your top priority for your next web project? And you heard it here, folks. The DevOps and all of us programmers is hit hard. Performance, performance, performance. I mean, you have a great, sustainable, and beautiful site, but if it isn't performant, nobody's going to come. So I am glad to hear that as a performance nerd myself. People also said sustainability. I'm glad the world is still thinking how we can be global citizens and make this for our future generations. And then I love this one, coming in with an editorial experience. I mean, they have always said this, and I've always said this. Don't ask me to change that button. Do it yourself. But no, I'll change all your buttons. But now I just ask AI. So thanks for participating in that poll, and we'll have more coming up. So we heard about your choices with Gatsby. We heard about your choices with Umbraco. But you know what? You also chose us, Netlify, as your hosting.
How could we
Hello.
forget?
How could we forget? there's a lot of opportunities and technology out there to develop and think about your stack. And we're in this world where if you haven't gone composable, I'm going to say, what are you doing? There's so many cool tools, solutions, and things out there happening every day. We are in the age of AI, people. I mean, hello, we already have a director of AI sitting on this panel, and there's going to be more out there, y'all. And so as we think about that and your choices for hosting, what were some of your considerations and how did Netlify intersect with that decision on ensuring that you gave the best for Agria and for their customers? Lee, I'll kick it to you to start with.
Yeah.
As you take a drink, don't you love that timing?
Perfect. I thought Ash would jump in there because Ash is our biggest advocate internally for Netlify. He's all things Netlify, because obviously the history of it coming from the front end team. Instead, you guys have built a business that just does everything right for everybody, that is all about front end. So maybe Ash, you want to speak a little bit?
Yeah, I can. Definitely take that one on. Yes, as I take a sip from my Netlify water bottle, and then
hey, represent, man. Represent.
So yeah, Netlify was an easy win for us because one, we needed performance, right? So it was all good building a lovely designed, great user tested website and web experience, but if we plonk it on the internet and it's slow as hell, it's not going to be any good, right? So we 100% wanted somewhere we could deploy our site that would be fast. So Netlify gave us that, and we, with the high performance edge, it never misses a beat. If they get any spikes in traffic, it's not a problem, right? And then on the flip side of that, we got things like developer experience. So us as devs, we're iterating on this site continuously. It wasn't a builder site and leave kind of thing. We're in a constant relationship with Agria, and so we're always deploying, we're always building new features. We need to send preview links to the client for look, but there might be like 10 or 15 features that need testing or putting around different teams. So having that CI pipeline in Netlify where we can just do a pull request and know that we're going to get a preview link out the other side is amazing. We love that if anything did go wrong with a deploy, we can just roll it back. And then there's extra things for performance, like using the image CDN, really massively reduced like their carbon footprint. It was one of the biggest factors in reducing the overall carbon footprint on the site, was making sure the images were as optimized as they could, and then leveraging Gatsby image with Netlify CDN, just the two together made it completely pain-free, really. And then editor experience. One of the pain points can be with headless is like editor preview. So the nice early access that you gave us to dev server or preview server, as it now is, makes the editor's experience just like they're editing a traditional website. So.
Yeah, really love that feature too. Again, it's like when you get those requests that you have to adjust something or change something, that iteration and that motion that you can have by having that available, it just helps you and the whole web team really be able to make changes and not have to have that analysis paralysis and that handoff that nobody likes to do. So faster the better. Love hearing that. One of the things that I think as we think about composable architecture and going headless, it's been around for a hot minute, right? Jamstack came out in 2010, and we're now in this new world of AI everything, LLM this, LLM that. We're coding the world. As I said, I'm a certified vibe coder now. It's so cool that you can just say that you are, because there's no certification. So you just have to say that you're certified, because that's the vibe, right?
Exactly. And I think just get AI to certify you.
You do. Just go on there and say, "Am I a certified vibe coder?" And it's going to say, "In your heart, if you are, you are." But that's the reality. Is we are all legacy systems right now that want to upgrade, and that's why we like to utilize the alphabet for acronyms, from DevOps to SA to NE to CTO to VP to direct to Eng to AI. And so Upgrading these legacy systems, I think, is going to be more and more important in that approach to the architecture, especially as we have these advancements. And I'm sure Lee's been thinking about them deeply. And so, working at Netlify, it's been really incredible to see the transformation. And we'll talk more about your future thinking on what you're thinking on your next builds, your website development. But before we get in there, we spoke about wanting to achieve a greener website with less carbon emissions, because we all know the air that we breathe is becoming more important. Yeah, because humans want to advance and continue to live on, right? Well, how did you manage to achieve this? I see you're showing some results, but like, walk us through, what were the outcomes? You talked about benchmarking, knowing what you had coming out of this site, trying to understand that footprint, because naturally, if we do a good job and make it performant, make it accessible, and make it delightful, you're going to see more user traffic, hopefully. But again, how did y'all really measure those results, and what did you see? Let's walk the team through it.
Yeah. So I suppose there's two things there. There's the methodology that they use, because it's very easy to tout numbers around like this, but without proving how you do it and without reinventing the wheel. So I think, first of all, the task fell on me to go and research how these things are measured. We didn't want to come up with our own measure if there's a standard, or if the world is starting to align on a particular standard. There is an organisation called the Green Web Foundation that's been promoting measurement of website CO2 using various methods for quite a while. So that was our first point of call. They've got a nice JavaScript library that, in effect, you can give it a page, curl a page. It looks at all the assets that are brought down, looks at like DOM complexity, JavaScript complexity, and bits like that, and it spits out a score. Now, they've evolved that over time, over a number of years, and it seems to be that the community is sort of aligning on that. So then what we wanted to do is like, right, okay, we've got to run that against every URL on the existing site, and then when we get the new site, we want to do it on there. But then we want to normalize it for traffic levels, because you might produce a site that's a lot greener, but you attract loads more visitors, so you end up actually producing even more CO2 because you've got more people coming to it. So it's like, you want more people, you want more conversions, but you still want the overall number to be down. So it'd be very easy just to take a page on a site, or just take the fundamental measurement and say, oh, look, when you run this library against every page on this site versus that site, we get a lower score. But what we actually did was go and take a point in time, I think it's a 3-month period, from using GA stats for the visitors and every URL that every visitor visited over a 3-month period, a year when the old site was run. Did the same thing for the same period, so you got a year-on-year comparison with the new site once it'd been up and running for quite a while. And then, in effect, every one of those pages has a different score. Each page is visited a different amount of times in the different periods, so you're getting a true measure. And then you say, oh, that's great, but we've got loads more people this year than last year. Let's normalize it down and come up with an average per session CO2 impact for what average session on the site looks like. That way you can start to compare apples to apples and look at, okay, if you had the same traffic levels as we have now, if we had that a year ago, how would that site performed CO2 wise? Or if we had the new site but with the same traffic levels it had before, how would it do? And actually, it does better on every metric, the new site. Not only, obviously, the lowest benchmark was we wanted it to outperform and get a better CO2 rating given the same traffic levels that it might have experienced with before, because we were worried then, because they obviously did a lot. It wasn't just the website done in isolation. They did a lot of out-of-home, above-the-line advertising, paid advertising as well around it to increase the amount of people going there, and their business is growing. They're aiming for 100% year-on-year growth again this year. So they're very ambitious. But actually, even taking this year's numbers for that quarter, it still had less CO2 usage than with a lower visitor count of the old site. So it didn't just meet the benchmark that we'd agreed with them, that it'd have better performance for the same amount of traffic. It's got better performance even with the increased traffic as well. And then to turn it into nice statistics like this, driving a petrol car 215 kilometers every month, or how many passenger miles, there are statistics out there, go-to ones where you can just do a quick bit of maths on the conversion to try and bring it down, because obviously there are different journeys through the site and we've measured it across different journeys. But for things like this, where you need to put a number on it, you can very easily average it, but we're actually doing weighted averages by the number of people that take the different journeys through the site, given what sort of person you are, because they've got a number of journeys through there. Yeah, and that's kind of the methodology that we use. So the underlying calculations are taking the consensus from Green Web Foundation, but you can use that in a crude way, or you can actually take Google Analytics real usage data from the real world and factor that in. And a quick shout out to Screaming Frog, because that made it easy to run that JavaScript on every page by crawling the site over a period, and it integrates with GA as well. So it made my job of gathering the data a lot easier.
That is awesome. Huge shout out to Screaming Frog. I opened a poll. How much does sustainability currently factor into your digital decisions? We got some coming in. It's a consideration, but not a core. But we want to know more, and we don't know how. And so I think it's awesome that we're continuing to have these conversations. And again, another huge double shout out to Screaming Frog. It's just a JavaScript library that you can go and implement and put in your site. But guys, I got a feature request for you, okay? As Lee was describing this, I think it's awesome. I love a good vanity metric, but a vanity metric that's for good, like reducing your carbon footprint and how many miles. But you could put in there per user session how much Big D over here is saving by going and buying my pet insurance. I think I want to know the personalization of my own impact by choosing them. So just a little tip. I mean, he did all that work to create those statistics. Hey,
yeah, they do have a carbon paw print that you can generate. So they have you can go on there and put your pet details in and work out the carbon footprint of your pet and then offset it if you like. So
as long as you don't have a cow, you should be okay with all the methane.
Yeah. I did like the carbon paw print. I thought.
I love that. Of course, you think you got a good idea and then somebody already has it and you got a carbon paw print. I am happy to get that badge. That's one that I will hold in my heart forever, my carbon paw print from doing good. But let's expand how Netlify played to contribute to this carbon reduction. So we talked about the speed of site, and I think that y'all hit it on something well, right? A performance site naturally is going to have less of an impact. Come on, y'all. We know how GPUs work. We know how memory storage processing. Shoot, people are talking about fusion energy right now. And so, we haven't measured that yet. But as we think about, having a globally reliant, secure, fast website, how did Netlify intersect with that? I'm a huge caching fan, and people are like, "Are you serious? Get a life." But I'm like, "No, I do, because somebody has to think about caching." So you're welcome. You're welcome, internet.
Thank you. You make it a bit easier for us.
Exactly. We all benefit from the ability to cache. But I'm curious. Can you expand on how Netlify kind of played a role in some of that decision making?
Well, so a byproduct of Gatsby, of course, is that everything you spit out the other end is static. So you can't get much more cached than that, right? So all the content is just on your lovely edge network. So we know that the content is only being accessed when it's needed, and it's not being regenerated on every user request. And a lot of the content just remains static over that journey. It might update, the journey might update once a day when they make technical changes, or, there might be one new blog article, but having that infrastructure in place just to be able to build and publish that changed content, and then knowing that every user that requests that is just getting the same thing over and over again is obviously going to have a massive impact. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but the image CDN has had probably the biggest impact, because that does tend to be the easiest win on a website. I mean, the amount of sites that we audit, and you just can tell they're loading in images that are 4, 5, 6 times bigger than they need to be. It's just such. And when you analyze a site, it's the biggest load, isn't it? It's either video or images, and then massive React bundles, but we have to have them sometimes. And then, and so that was probably the biggest one. And then having that static first approach and having those serverless deployments.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting, as more people are utilizing and more developers are utilizing coding platforms and coding assistants, how it's going to make these decisions based on sustainability. I don't know about y'all, but I'm going to go vibe code me up and ask those platforms like, help me create a more sustainably, healthy website. I'll report back, y'all. I will
That
report
would be
back.
good. Yeah,
Let's all go try it. But knowing that, as well as hitting your objective to reduce that impact, we talked a little bit, I love being able to bring my own passion, mission, and vision as a human to the work that I do. It gives me fulfillment to be able to help technologists everywhere. But you know what? There is business behind it, and we do have a job to be done, and that's to make the money. And to make the money, again, it all comes together to have a great user experience. So we had some great metrics about the footprint that we reduced, but I think people want to know, especially because their top priority is performance. Is what was the business impact of this new website in comparison to the old? I think you guys had some stats on how really shifting this over. There you go. Helped across
really.
the board.
Definitely. So as you can see on the screen there, but 29% increase in sales year on year, which obviously is a massive result from a site rebuild. 25% increase in the mobile engagement rates, which is great because a lot of their traffic obviously naturally comes on mobile now. 82% start to quote conversion rate, which is like an industry benchmark on insurance sites, and happens to be the best in the pet insurance market. So, which was great. And then 62% of 62, that'd be nice. 26% increase in organic search traffic year on year. So, just showing those benefits of having a high performance site really there, coming in for the win.
Awesome.
I think that's just one thing on that. I think that to the point you were speaking about earlier, Dana, and their first poll where people's priority is performance. It's like all these things all align. A performative site is usually going to be better off from a CO2 point of view because it has less load across the networks. Sites being built less. But then as performance site obviously has business performance. There's the statistics out there and these belie it. Just building a better, faster, more in touch with the user experience site is going to bring all the numbers up. So these things aren't at odds with each other. It's not like, you've got to chuck out the environmental angle because you're focused on the money in and increasing the sales. Part of what we explain to clients and what examples and case studies like this do is show all these three pillars are all aligned together, and actually you can't take one in isolation. So it should be fundamentally built in to it, because by building a performance site, you will be creating a more environmentally friendly site.
That's dang right. So, this was, I think, a really interesting project to intersect those objectives. And you've hit it on this a little bit along the journey, right? You had to do an upgrade from Morocco. You had to go and update the stack. You had to go and change so many pieces, right? But you did have some choices that were there before. But really, in conversation of how you intersected, again, being able to deliver a performant, well searchable site. What did y'all learn throughout this process? What was some of the key learnings that you would think about and share with others? Because one of the big things here were, as we said in the poll, is I want to do better. I want to be a better global citizen. I want to be a better global developer and help y'all and help us build a better world. And so what were some of the things that you learned, keeping all of those goals in focus as you pushed out this project?
Well, I think the biggest thing, I think Lee just touched on it, but is that the byproduct of like thinking green is that you get all these other benefits, right? That is the biggest thing we learned. It's like, you don't have to think about it as being, I'm building a green site. You're just thinking about it, I'm building a really high performance site. And that performance can take on so many words, right? Or meaning. So it's performant because it's fast. It's performant because the UX is great. It's performance because the SEO is good. And the performance because the CO2 has been reduced. So if you just think about performance and you're going to get a green site. And then I think that was the biggest takeaway. It didn't have to be a chore to get to this. It was just a few well thought out decisions along the way meant it all just came together. I think also just that remembering to keep track of these metrics as well. Like we so often dive with so much like enthusiasm into a rebuild, and we don't take stock of what's there already. So before you get carried away and deploying a really nice new website, make sure that you kind of take some benchmarks beforehand, because once that site's gone, right? So we just make sure you get those benchmarks first. Is definitely on my recommendation list, and then just keep on like iterating and keep on those benchmarks as well, because obviously once you're done, you've launched a site, things start creeping in, or more tracking codes get added, or high image like led pages get added to the site, and you can kind of just start evaluating like, are there any decisions that you can make to like help reduce the page load and the page weight.
Heck yeah. And so, I think a lot of people are still in the midst of their headless journey. A lot of us are still, trying to keep the pace of everything going about us. And comparing this build to a more traditional full stack, fully hosted, what was the development time comparison of going headless? Did you see an increase? I mean, I know with any kind of architecture, once you set it, you kind of forget it till you have a monolith or some spaghetti environment that you're like, where are all the services? So many services, but knowing this, I think it's a big push for companies to consider re-architecting, re-platform, redoing anything if they don't got to. And boy, I don't know about you all, but I don't love doing a migration. I've done way too many. But I'm curious,
Exactly.
and I think people want to know because they're trying to figure out, well, how can I make these changes? How can I future-proof my stack? And so what was that build time? What changed in this process? And did it add or remove anything from your assumptions into the direct results of this project?
That's really interesting. Yeah. I think overall we didn't really see any additional like overhead and resource in developing this in headless, really. In fact, I think really, if anything, we find it more efficient. Because we can like separate our specialisms. The back end guys can really hyper focus on making that CMS experience great. We can work with our design team and build a really nice component library. I would say, yeah, in fact, we probably build a site faster now in our headless world than we do in the traditional aspect. I mean, it's been a little while since we built a traditional site, if I'm going to be honest, but definitely a lot faster. And it has like much other benefits, like making it easier to recruit people, because we can get, everyone wants to be playing in this JavaScript world, and everyone that we've kind of brought on has been really excited to work on this tech stack.
I think that's a really key point, isn't it? It's that decoupling the back end from the front end means more things can run in parallel, so the overall project time. I think from the project manager's point of view, that's made life easier. Requires different sort of testing and also different sort of communications between the team, but that's led us to look at other ways of working with that as well. So actually, it is overall more efficient from our point of view, creating sites like that, and has also led us to some more, sort of interesting ideas with how the designers talk to the front end team and how the front end team to the back end team, and developing some like AI driven tools like Figma plugins and things that ensure that the designers include every state, that creates a brief for the developers, based on a structured prompt. So the designers have to put enough information in before they can sign off a component, before the developers get the brief in order to build that component, and likewise between the front end and the back end. So decoupling those three, design, development and back end development, means everyone can work on their specialisms as long as we ensure the communication between the teams is right.
I think that's great, yeah, because there's what you do, you don't get that kind of, like you said, that structured handoff between, and you are kind of more working in a network as a team. But yeah, it definitely works well for us over here.
Oh, and final poll of the session, we asked, what's the biggest barrier to making your site more sustainable? And y'all, you know it as well as I do. It's the legacy tech stack. And then,
Mhm.
I would say second to that, business buy-in. But you know how to get business buy-in? By having a highly performant, scalable site that results in business outcome like these: increase in sales, increase engagement, and those conversion rates in organic search. So, if you're having difficulty convincing your leaders that you want to go and breathe some life into your stack and maybe dip your toes into the composable architecture, I mean, you hear it here first from practitioners. I think that's a challenge for all of us, is how to move when you have something that just seems unsurmountable and old. And I've been there. And I think that, you don't have to rip and replace anything. This is why you can bring in those different areas and start updating and upgrading. And if you have the ability to start from scratch, I want to encourage you all to think about, the future of how systems, APIs, and platforms will work together. And I'm sure Lee has a future of how AI systems will work together in the agentic workforce as well. But, taking those small steps first, I think, are always important. And again, you can incrementally get there. I think the first part is always the hardest, is taking that shift into a headless or a composable architecture. But after that, it's pretty darn easy to continue to iterate and find what works for you. And also adding plugins, extensions, integrations like Figma that really help the entire web development team participate. And to me, that's one of the main unlocks in going for an architecture in this way, is that it isn't set it and forget it and then come back in 5 years and go, oh shit, I have to go and rebuild all of this. It's really the ability to future-proof some of your stack. And I know that you built the site a while ago, and so much, y'all. I don't know. I turn on the news and I'm like, what the heck are we doing now? We have new protocols. I thought we just had TCP/IP, but now we have MCP. It's not
GP.
MTV. It's not MTV. I thought for a hot minute it was MTV revitalizing and playing music videos again, but that's what TikTok's for. So it's not. It's MCP, people. But in all seriousness, there is so much happening in our space right now. And I'm curious, in addition to adding Figma as a plugin, thinking about opportunities for how you approach your testing, your DevOps, all of the chores. I'm curious, like, what would you do differently? Like, what would you do differently 6 months ago, 360,
Yeah.
1 day ago, that you're saying, yeah, I'm thinking
Yeah.
about how I'm going to do this? Let's share some insight there.
Yeah, or what we are doing differently. So testing is a great one. So this site, obviously, it's developed a while ago, but it doesn't stop. Daily the team are working on it. There's always different changes waiting to be deployed in staging, different links being tested by different people at the actual insurance company. And with that, we use Cypress tests to test end-to-end journeys and test different components. The more this is growing, the more the unsustainable that is, creating all of those tests and using devs to do it. So we looked at how we could use some AI to help us write those tests. So we produced quite a simple system, basically, where it integrates with Cypress. You give the LLM a screenshot of a web page and the DOM of the web page, and then you ask it to do something, like fill in this form with my details. All right. And with the screenshot and the DOM, the LLM should be smart enough to write Cypress tests to do that. And then it does it. Then it runs the test. So the state of the page changes. And then you write another instruction in English. So in effect, instead of having to write Cypress tests in JavaScript, you can write them in English, and the LLM will translate them. And we got that working, that's fine. But what's that really led to, some insights there, is things the LLM isn't so good at doing it and the AI isn't so great at. So certain things, like classic examples, like drop downs, are fun. Even our designers, everyone hates a native browser select drop down. So everybody reinvents their own React component to do it. And we ensure it's ARIA accessible. So, these things are still accessible, but even though they're relying on the JavaScript to do it. But that's one area that the LLM keeps falling down on. It keeps trying to manipulate a DOM object, because that select box is still there, but we've hidden that from the user. So the Cypress test fail because it can't actually access the hidden DOM object. And so it's things like that are letting us see how an LLM would interact with the site. And that starts bringing us onto this whole agent experience thing. It's like, if a dumb or out of the box LLM, given the DOM, can't work out how to do a simple task like select the breed of animal in this case, because of how a React component's been developed and not using the thing underneath, well, that just points out to us that actually we should change that, because if in the future people are using these agents, or you know, new sites that we're creating, we're talking about creating MCP servers for each site. It's like, what are the main journeys through the site? Like an insurance company, it's either taking out an insurance policy or it's making a claim against an insurance policy. Why can't I just ask my chat, my local Claude desktop, to go and do that for me, and it can integrate with the site? So obviously, you know, maybe in the future, every site we develop also runs an MCP server as well, so that there's the agent experience there. But starting, and maybe this is a way for people to think about it with sites they're doing and organizations getting buy-in. Testing has been a great way in. We're like, right, first of all, everyone wants more test coverage. The more journeys are, the more test coverage. That's resource intensive. Brilliant. Using AI to do it. You know what? That's now pointing out areas where an AI might struggle. Okay, your users aren't struggling. We've done the user research. That's fine. But actually, in the future, if AIs are going to be doing this stuff on your website, you can start seeing what areas already are problem points for them based around it. And that reveals the whole tension between user experience and agent experience, because they are different. Right? We've got loads of research on human biases and human behavioral insights that we apply when creating websites, but some of those don't apply to LLMs. I mean, a really simple one is like, you know, and it's really relevant to the insurance one. Regulated industry, they have to ask you loads of questions. So we've got like loads of multi-step forms, and that's because of cognitive overload. You know, you don't present too many things at one point, you steer people through it. Well, the LLMs don't have that cognitive overload. In fact, it's a lot easier. They have one big, massive long form, and they can do it in a one hit instead of stepping through multiple pages on there. But so we've started looking at that for clients like Agria already. But the first stumbling block is like, and I think this will be something that people will have to start building in more, especially the offerings that you're providing, is authentication. You know, it's all very well having an MCP server set up that will take you through this process, like an insurance policy, but you've got to authenticate, and normal SSOs aren't going to work. I can't use my Google account to pre-fill all my personal details, because the insurance company needs all my legal details. It needs all my registered address and bits like that. So I think that's an area that we're exploring now before we're going to be able to go down the full sort of MCP route for these. But we had a meeting just last week. It's being driven by the CEO of this insurance company, who's really got to the, grabbing the nettle. She's really enthusiastic about how they can use AI to help the user experience and help them reach their targets. So they've got very ambitious targets for growing the business in all aspects of it. So what starts as web development, user research, become testing, that was our in to talk to them about AI. Some of the stuff that AI is discovering while trying to do the testing is pointing out the difference between agent experience and user experience. And so they're like, okay, they want an eye to the future. How can we do that? So that's a way in from traditional web design through to what the future might be with agentic experiences on websites. And that's the journey we've been on with these guys, and how we landed on it by accident, really. But it's we're talking to more and more clients about it now.
I think as well, I always liken it to, we had the mobile revolution, and I don't know how many of us were kicking around when we unfortunately had to go away from our 15-inch screens to designing for all these different devices. But it was kind of like a shift, wasn't it? And we were like, how do we squeeze this desktop right down onto a mobile? And we weren't really thinking about the mobile experience. We were thinking about the desktop experience being displayed on a mobile, and then our mental model shifted, didn't it? And we were then building mobile first and really thinking about the experience and how it needs to be different from mobile, through tablet, through desktop, to TV, to whatever comes next. And then now we're having to have that same thought process shift again. It was kind of like, how can we apply AI everything? And now it's like, well, no, let's think about AI first, and then what we can do with it, which is really exciting. It's kind of like it's definitely an exciting time to be developing.
I can't agree more. And we got a couple of questions coming in, y'all. Anton first asked, what tools did you use to measure reduction CO2? Screaming Frog, JS library from the Green Web Foundation, plus their own time sliced aggregated metrics. I think we covered that one. We have another one, though, for y'all. There are a lot of images. Thank you, Anton. There are a lot of images in AgriPet. How did you optimize the image? Did you consider about using vectors and CSS instead of photos? Ooh, I love it. Did you consider it?
We could. There are plenty of vectors around the site. Anything that is an icon is a vector, but you can't get away from that lovely pet imagery, can you? We all want to see the cuddly puppy. So, yeah, like I said, we really leveraged the power there of Gatsby image, making sure that we were getting the right size images for the right device size, and then back that up by serving the right format image. So whether that's AVIF, WebP, or if we have to go back to supporting JPEG or whatever, and then utilizing the CDN on Netlify to produce all those sizes for us and make sure they're delivered in the most cached and performant way.
Oh yeah, definitely. Less code. I mean, bigger problem, but less code. And we got another one. We got another one coming in from Remy Ham. Thank you, Remy, for asking questions. Sustainability wise, would you still choose Gatsby over, for example, Next.js or Solid Start? If you had to go back in time, would you choose a different framework if it was really just like I know. I love it. Bring the spice, Remy. What's the opinion? It's on the internet. This is out there forever, y'all.
Yeah. Gatsby will forever have a little piece of my heart, I think.
Aww.
But it got me into this world, so I was there making those decisions between Next and Gatsby. At the time, Gatsby was the one for us. I think as a dev team, it was a lot easier to onboard with. We got the concepts a lot easier. We weren't happy with the churn of Next.js at the time and stuff like that. So it was a great choice for us. It like the theme shadowing feature in Gatsby has been an absolute godsend on this project. So being able to, re-theme a site for all the different brands and then layer on customizations without having to, have any code duplication. I don't think any other framework has done that yet. So it still feels like the right choice for them. That said, we are just the last 2 weeks launched 2 Astro sites. So it's kind of like, yeah, Gatsby was the right choice for this project. Most new projects, admittedly, will probably be an Astro now. It feels like the Gatsby V6, I call it, where it felt like a natural progression for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I'm loving what Astro and Solid are doing. I'm a framework person. I'm like, I love them all. They all do something unique and individual for what you're trying to do. And I think when we talk about sustainability and CO2, again, being the queen of caching, I hope I get that title. I'll tell you what, is thinking about how they're doing local first and the server islands in Astro that they've implemented, and then signals that Ryan Carnato and their team are thinking about. And again, it's about how we think about that footprint from a compute standpoint, whether you're utilizing your local machine or one in the cloud, utilizing some amazing caching. But that's the amazing thing about this world that we're in and this AI evolution from 2008, the invention of the iPhone, to simplifying how we think about user experiences, to now how we're unlocking and bringing down the gates of custom software development by these coding platform and assistants. It's going to be really interesting to see how we infect the algorithms and show them the things that are important to building these sites and having that fungibility under the hood. And y'all mentioned it there. If you're trying to get some adoption in your platform and your code base, thinking about, the DX, we thought about since Jeremiah Lee, another person I had the opportunity to work with from Spotify, came in and invented, and now with AX, well, we all know who Matt Billman is, hopefully on this call, and really approaching what you've built and those workflows, knowing that you're going to have an agent, an MCP server, an LLM, a source, an algorithm that's going to drive your intention behind the steering wheel is really something that we can all do. And starting with things like you said, Lee, user testing, like let's go put in something that makes it more known and usable. I mean, a lot of people will say, oh, what about PRs? Humans do it better. I'm like, I don't know, 500 lines of code in a pull request. I'm going to wager that in the future that something is going to do it better than us doing those pull requests, but also that will be generated from that. So Lee, just ending this conversation on AI, what are you, I know I'm going to throw you a fluffy question. What are you most excited about? We've talked about, getting your team comfortable with it, integrating it, using it, frameworks and all of the things from the build to the edge. But what are you most excited about in your team? And then, Ash, I'm going to end that same question to you. So Lee, let's kick it to you, and then Ash, you'll bring it home.
What am I most excited about? Well, first of all, the pull request stuff. I saw a great prompt that somebody released the other day on GitHub to help you generate it. So I'm just excited about trying things like that out. I would say, I was having this conversation with the CEO the other day. Right, we are a enterprise development agency. But one of the first use cases for these LLMs that seems to be gaining traction globally, and one of the first examples that people point out, is its ability to write code. So development teams in 5 years' time are going to be very different from what they are now, with the tasks they're carrying out. It's trying to ensure we stay ahead of that. And it's not the coding, as all of you will know. The day job, most of your hours spent aren't just doing the coding. It's all the other stuff around that as well. And I'm really excited here at Fresh Egg about building those end-to-end pipelines that have some AI oversight and AI in the layers that communicate. Like, I really love the little prototype thing for Figma that helps designers actually give developers what they need. I really like some of the stuff we're doing testing front end, but equally we've done some really good stuff using AI to help us on the back end when we're doing version upgrades and things like that, to make sure the GraphQL endpoints are always returning exactly the same data. So although it's a bit of a woolly answer, I'm really excited about us improving the process so that we define what a dev team looks like in the future. And I'm really excited about this idea that every site has an MCP server running with it as well. So you have a site and you have a way that sites can be consumed, or the services they provide can be consumed by any AI agents or LLM software people are running. They're the two things that really get me out of bed in the morning at the moment.
With you on that one. And if you haven't seen, go check out the Netlify MCP. You can build your own and deploy it. That's right. And I would be shocked. No, I wouldn't, because I'm the boss here. We have more of that hotness coming out, y'all, because we see an agentic workforce to enable developers, no matter how you became one, whether a designer, a PM, or I don't know, somebody that's getting back into it. I'm more productive than ever, y'all. I was like, whew, let me loose, people. At any given time, I have multiple IDEs, in browser IDEs open, and I'm just really experimenting, and it's just been really amazing from a creative standpoint. But I'm going to tell you, Lee, practically speaking, I love it that the chores are being taken away. I was like, no more bad pull requests, no more chores. But all right, Ash, you got to bring it home. We got 2 minutes left in this webinar.
I mean, you took all the good ones. But
what are yours, man?
Cool. Yeah, I mean, just straight up, like, AI is not going to be any worse than it is today, right? It's only going to be getting better. So we've got to embrace it. So I am really looking forward to seeing, where it's going to be in 5 years' time. But just being so productive and being, as a developer, being able to broaden my skill set and just dip in and out of all different things, whether that I want to go and build a Swift app. I know the concepts of code, but I might not know the syntax, and I can just apply my knowledge to these different areas just so easily. The other day we needed to start exploring Connect, right, on Netlify, and I was like, I've got this database and I need to translate that into Connect. So within half an hour, I built a tool that would introspect to my SQL database and spit me out some Netlify Connect code out the other end. If you would have imagined that a couple of years ago, you just would be like, boom, exactly, that's it, right? it's just made me such a more powerful dev, really, just so much more efficient. And I think that's what excites me, just being able just to be creative, that's why we get into this. It's like you say, the code is just a byproduct of what we're doing, right? It's the problem solving, it's the being creative, it's coming up with those ideas, and AI is just kind of accelerating that for us.
Heck yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, I was getting so annoyed with 2FA flow. I went same.xyz. I cloned that baby. I was like, I'm going to make this so dumb. We're going to scan QRs. But some of those things where you would just think about experimenting on some, I don't know, just some really nascent but hard stuff, especially when you're doing like utilizing libraries to interact with hardware. I mean, I'm an old phone gap person. So like we're talking about, y'all know
Loved
what
it.
I'm talking about.
I
No,
started an
look.
agency, based on phone gap, many years ago. Yeah,
Yeah,
loved it.
but but when you think about development and the ability to transform sites and do PWAs and other types of progressive and responsive, I'm gonna tell you, AI is here to make it better for all of us. Those are the chores, really in the bowels of development that I don't know. I mean, maybe some people really love them. Like I love caching, but you never know because at the end of the day, you just want to get that dream on the internet and in people's hands and to see if they like it and if they like you. No, don't make it about you, make it about the product. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me. I know you're calling in from sunny, beautiful England, and I'm over here in Portland, Oregon. So it's getting late for y'all and it's still early for me. But if y'all didn't get a chance to check it out, go hit up netlify.com, be a part of the community. We're talking about agent experience. You can find us on X forums and other places, Discord, and go check out Fresh Egg, your enterprise agency for all your website needs. And if you need pet insurance for your little furry buddy, go check out Agria and see your carbon paw print. That being said, thank you so much, Lee and Ash, for joining me. It's been a pleasure and hope to see you on the internet. Thanks. Bye, y'all.
Bye.